Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Check this out, guys. So at 8:39, look at this. The no votes were ahead, right? 236, 206. Within 5 minutes, look at this. There's a jump. Look at that jump. Of over what? 60,000 votes? 64,000 votes? In 4 minutes, 5 minutes? Is that possible? Somebody, does that make sense? Let me know.
64,000 votes in 5 minutes, 35,000 mail-in ballots on the dot from Fairfax County. They steal elections in plain sight, and those that can see it are actually really smart. They understand the process. And yet the left still has this thing called mainstream media and the apparatus and the judiciary and the legislature on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, that say there's nothing to see here. Everything's fine. We're not stealing elections. I know it's 51 to 49%. And here's something else you should know. I've been talking about this system for a long time. This was the Dominion voting systems that got turned over to Liberty Vote. New owners, so everything should be fine, right? It's owned by a Republican. Well, who's John Thune? Is he a Republican? How is it that the SAFE Act, it hasn't passed yet? And yet we're right now redistricting and redrawing the lines in Virginia to disenfranchise nearly 60% of the entire state. No clean voter rolls. We just want to talk about 2020. I want to talk about 2018, 2016, 2014, 2012, 2010, 2008. I want to talk about 2022, 2024, and what's about to happen in 2026. I'll put this up here for you. I was watching these posts that were being put up. And I went back and I was like, I know what the outcome is going to be here in a minute. Go ahead and put it up if you would. More fraudulent elections. Let's predict it. It will flip and end at 50.09. Yes. And if you actually go and just click on that really quick. Yes was at 49.3. No was at 50.7. This was at, go ahead and flip. Can you go down a little bit so I can see the timing on it? Okay, go a little slower. This is at 6:13 p.m. on the 21st. I'll go back up to the top if you look at my post again. That was at 6:17 p.m. on the 21st. Now, if you go to the next post, I happen to look back up at 6:31. Wow, I could have written a script at Real Donald Trump because I know the system and it's a fraudulent system. Stop the slavery, Mr. President. 12 minutes earlier, I predicted the outcome. Mark Cook, how about this prediction? And here you go. Another post. 76 reporting 50.06, 49.94 no. And it ended at 51%. And you go, how is that possible? And if that's not enough for you, we have to look at the language to invoke emotions and insinuate that people in elections are unfair. Meanwhile, they take a sledgehammer to the representation of Republicans and just independents. Let's just call it what it is, 80% of the people in Virginia. The redistricting amendment on the ballot today is framed as a vote to restore fairness in the upcoming election. Let's go and put that up if we can. There we go. This is insane. It really is. In reality, it turned to state that Kamala barely won by 5 points from 60 to 5R, means 6 Democrats to 5 Republicans, to 10 Democrats and 1 Republican. Should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections while ensuring Virginia standards redistricting process resumes for all its future redistricting after the 2030 census. We're not in a free country, and you're not a free person. You're a slave. But that process has been put in place, and that cake has been baked long before we got to the table talking about it today. The reality of it is that they don't want you to have free and fair elections because it does not favor them. Chaos favors the op, never favors the people. And yet the media is still trying to beat that drum, hoping that we go back into our hole or we get to war. The problem with it is that we're more likely to go to war than we are to go back into our hole. And here's the truth. A rigged election took place last night in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. All day long, Republicans were winning. The spirit was unbelievable until the very end, when, of course, there was a massive mail-in ballot drop. Where have I heard that before? And the Democrats eked out another crooked victory. 6 of 5 goes to 10 to 1. And yet the presidential election in November was very close to a 50-50 split. In addition to everything else, the language of the referendum was purposely unintelligible and deceptive. As everyone knows, I'm an extraordinarily brilliant person, and even I had no idea what the hell they were talking about in the referendum, and neither do they. Let's see if the courts will fix this travesty of justice, President Donald J. Trump. But they're not going to fix it. They're not going to fix it. They're not going to fix it. To hell with what the people want. People want voter ID? No. They want to eliminate mail-in ballots? No. They want to eliminate absentee ballots? No. We're just waiting around to just get our teeth kicked in. And we pay taxes at 56 cents on every dollar. We don't own our homes. They're owned by the government. If you don't pay your taxes, they'll come and take it from you. You can't drive a car without putting tags on the back of it, which means you have to pay taxes in order to put it on the road. Now, I'm not saying that the system doesn't require taxable revenue. But when does it stop? When you take all the meat off the bone, there's nothing left. Families can't thrive. They just survive. And it's not just poor people that happens to. People suck at every different level. The only ones that seem to make it out alive are the people at the top of food chain, less than 1% of the population. The other 99% are just trying to get by, just trying to realize that American dream, which now is so far out of touch that you can't even put your hands on it. You couldn't even see it. And the next generation, well, that's going to be even worse with AI and some of the other things that are coming into play. Where are they going to work? What are they going to do? What does success look like for the next generation when you've stripped them of every opportunity, taken away the trade schools, and pushed them into a corner? Is it any surprise that we have people that are waking up disenfranchised, thinking it's those people over there, when in actuality it's the very people that are stabbing them and then telling them to go look over there? Those are the people that are hurting you. Our government is broken. Our judiciary rotted to the core. I want to show you this. This is Lara Logan interviewing former CIA operative Gary Bernstein. And we have a great guest today, by the way. Bruce Sackman is a healthcare fraud investigator and former president of the Society for Professional Investigators. He is a veteran federal investigator, so I'm going to ask him a little bit about this. I don't think it's a specialty, but let's get into it. With the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, he retired as a special agent in charge of the Northeast Field Office, the Office of the Inspector General. He's an expert in medical serial killers. Well, this is going to be a fascinating conversation. We are going to talk a little bit about, if you're investigating one thing, you can investigate another. You can look at things on his face. I'd like to see what he thinks about this. But I want to play this first, and then we'll bring him in. This is Lara Logan talking about elections being stolen in America. Every election. There's not one election in the United States that's not stolen. I am a system architect. I literally should be able to predict that we're going to flip. I shouldn't be able to predict the Georgia outcome either. But I did. Go ahead and play it.
They know where they can find the dead people that they need to get certain votes. They plan this, as Gary said before.
It's meticulous.
It's meticulous. These guys are experts at this. It's not just a few guys in a back room. You're talking about hundreds of statisticians and engineers, and they work it, for a year.
And mathematicians and hackers.
Right.
We had a map out of Colorado when we were talking to our engineers, the guys that designed it and stole the elections. And we looked at it and we said, look, it's Denver here and Colorado Springs, all the Democrats, they said, and they looked at us in pity,
Yeah.
Like, here's something. They said, no, we just go to every one place where Trump went 70-30 and he's winning 68, or we shave in every other place. We don't go near a Democratic place because when they want to do recounts, they're going to go to the Democratic places. They don't realize we shaved in every other committee. We know every other county. We know how to do this. And then in each of those things where they shave with a different technique in each one of those. So if you found something in one county, there's no continuity around the state that way.
So this is why the Republicans are so much at fault, because they have the power and the ability to show in their areas they can allow access to the machines, they can allow access to the source code, they can allow the...
But they thought we just won by 35%. Okay, we didn't win by 38. Yeah. We won by 35, so no one's going to call to... They should have, right?
Because everyone says, well, we expected the Republicans to win by a majority. Well, it was a little less than we thought it was going to be, but they still won, so, no harm, no foul. But the evidence of the fraud is right there, and they could show it.
They never looked at it.
They never looked at it. By the way, what he's saying is absolutely incorrect. Sorry, I'll just call it out. It's not the presidential election. Everyone wants to focus in on the presidential election. It's the three-card Monty. Look over here, look over here, look over here. It's just the presidential election. They're stealing every race in whatever they want. Town council, no problem. Mayor race, no problem. Referendum vote that actually raise your taxes, no problem. We don't have free and fair elections. We don't have a fair election. We don't have any elections in this country. We are literally slaves to a system. And they just take whatever they want. And you are told to sit down, shut up. We got this handled. And it's not done by the government. It's done by a for-profit company that is there to do a public good. And no matter how much we scream that we want free and fair elections and we want a hand count in person, one day only, they're not going to give it to us. 85% want the SAVE Act passed. And yet the Democrats and the Republicans both are standing in the way of free and fair elections. We're just slaves. There's no other way to look at it. And maybe there is other way to look at it. But I'm telling you right now, the appetite for it is long gone. So I want to just welcome Bruce to the show. He has so much more that I could talk about. He's a media consultant and lecturer. He's an author. He's got a book called, and I think I just pulled the stuff on it just so I could read on this, but it's a true crime memoir, Behind the Murder Curtain. Special Agent Bruce Sackman hunts doctors and nurses who kill our veterans. Imagine that, they kill our veterans. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Bruce, how do we play out all the things that are wrong? You've got to be a little bit cynical being inside the government and seeing some of this diabolical behavior happen to veterans. How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go in this? What do you think what happened in Virginia yesterday was a free and fair election?
I don't think there'll be free and fair elections because we're not asking for any voter ID. We let millions of people in here unvetted during a pandemic. And when we go to vote, we're not asking for voter ID. Yet the last election, my wife went to vote and they said, oh, somebody already voted in your name. Oh, how in God's name did that ever happen? I don't know. But as long as one party is insisting on no voter ID, there's not going to really be a free and fair election, in my opinion.
Well, so how do we get to the bottom of that? I've been fighting on this for 6 years. We can't even get the SPLC or SPLA. What is it? The Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC. We can't even get names named. They just said we're indicting the SPLC. How about names? None. Did you see any names? I didn't see any.
No.
So now it's an object that went in.
It's very frustrating. And, my role with the Inspector General, for those people that aren't familiar with it, the purpose of the Inspector General is to ferret out fraud, waste, and abuse in every federal agency. Every major federal agency has an Inspector General, and the Department of Veterans Affairs has one as well. Unfortunately, it's one of the smallest Inspector Generals for one of the largest federal agencies, which in and of itself kind of tells you something about how serious we are about ferreting out this fraud, waste, and abuse. But the interesting thing about the VA Inspector General is it comes in 3 different flavors. The other Inspector Generals have an Office of Audit and an Office of Investigations. In the VA, we had an Office of Audit, an Office of Investigations, and an office to handle medical problems called the Office of the Medical Inspector. Now, I was the special agent in charge of the VA Office of Inspector General for the Northeast. That meant that I handled all VA hospitals from West Virginia to Maine, outpatient clinics, extended care centers, the whole VA gamut. And it was actually a great honor, because it's a great honor to be both in law enforcement and in law enforcement dedicated to helping our nation's heroes. And it gave me an opportunity to see a lot of things inside of the government that people don't normally do. And hospitals, well, hospitals are like big cities, and they have all kinds of issues. Not only malpractice, but they have issues like theft. They have issues of drug diversion. They have issues of patient record confidentiality. I mean, I could go on and on with the issues they have. And I investigated every one of them until one day I got a phone call that sort of changed my life, where there was an allegation that a doctor was working, treating our nation's heroes at the Northport VA Medical Center on Long Island, who had spent time in prison for poisoning his coworkers.
You've got to be
Now,
kidding
Joe,
me.
I didn't know that in the United States of America, you could actually be a doctor at the VA and pass a background investigation and treat our nation's heroes, having spent time in prison for poisoning people.
So
But
how did
that's
he get his
happened.
medical license back?
Well, it's a great story. It's a great story. And I'll tell you the story quickly. His name is Dr. Michael Swango. When Dr. Michael Swango was in medical school, his fellow students referred to him as Double O Swango, licensed to kill, because they actually suspected that he was killing patients as a medical student. And they went to the dean and they said, "Dean, I don't think this guy should be a doctor." And the dean said, "I don't care what you think, you're only students. I think he should be a doctor. He just needs a little bit more training." So they kept him on, and then he wound up going to Ohio State University, where all of a sudden people died unexpectedly. But they couldn't prove anything because these cases are incredibly difficult to prove. And then he became an EMT, and he was convicted of poisoning his coworkers, came out of prison, but being such a glib talker, which is a nice way of putting it, he managed to convince people that he actually spent time in prison as a result of a barroom brawl, and produced bogus documentation that his civil rights had been restored by the governor. And since there's a shortage of doctors in some places, they wound up taking him back.
Without
And
checking
that's
into it.
when he wound up in my neighborhood out in Northport, Long Island. And then I got that call that sort of changed my life.
All right, let's talk about that call.
Okay, so what happened was I get a call from the chief of psychiatry at the Northport VA hospital. And she says, "Bruce, you're not going to believe this, but we have a doctor working here who spent time in prison for poisoning his coworkers." What, are you kidding me? What is this, like an April Fool's joke or something? That's impossible. Well, it wasn't impossible.
Was it
His
April
name
Fool's?
is
Was it
Michael
April 1st?
Swango. What's that?
Was it April 1st?
No, it wasn't April 1st. That's the first thing I checked, Joe, the calendar to see.
You're like, wait, come on. Yeah, I think we're past that.
So I said, I have to go meet this guy. And I did some checks, and I saw that he actually did, in fact, spend time in prison. And when I go there, he's a really handsome, charming guy. I mean, Joe, if you didn't know better, I don't know if you have a daughter, but if your daughter brought him home and she said, "Hey, Dad, this is my new boyfriend. He's a doctor at the VA," you'd say, "Come on in, we'd be happy to have you in the family."
I'd
And
still check him out. Just
Yeah.
so we're clear.
So what happened was that he gives me the same story, the barroom brawl story and all of that. And then I ask him, I said, "That's really interesting, Dr. Swango. Thank you very much. But do you mind if I come in your room and look around and check some things out?" And then his attitude completely changed, wouldn't let me in. I didn't have enough probable cause for a search warrant. And the next thing you know, this guy is out of the country. He's in Zimbabwe, Africa. And when he's in Zimbabwe, Africa, he kills women and children and pregnant women.
Hey, wait a minute. You mean, okay, your timeline shrunk here. So he went to Zimbabwe.
Right.
He showed up on a Tuesday and killed them on Wednesday, or is this over?
Well, no, it wasn't quite that fast.
Okay, all right.
It wasn't quite that fast.
Because I was getting just showed up with a slasher and just said, "Okay, I'm going to go to town."
No, it wasn't quite that fast. But eventually, he started killing again, and again, these cases are very, very difficult to have.
So he went to Zimbabwe as a doctor.
Yes, he went to Zimbabwe as a doctor, but he had to return to the United States to renew his passport because he wanted to yet travel on to another country. And that's when we arrested him, but not for murder because we didn't have any evidence that he murdered anybody. We actually arrested him for every federal agent's favorite crime, lying to the government.
Yeah.
He lied to me. He
Influence of
lied to me
politicians.
about his background, and we arrested him for that. Then we had to prove as to whether or not he actually murdered any of our nation's heroes at the Northport VA Medical Center. Now, I had done every conceivable hospital case.
How many people died under his care?
At the VA?
Yeah.
Or worldwide, Swango killed so many people he doesn't even remember himself. At the VA, we suspect 4. But here's the problem, Joe. Many of these people are extraordinarily sick. As a matter of fact, the first time I looked at these medical records, they were so thick, I said, I didn't know you could be alive and have this much wrong with you. And now I have to prove you were actually murdered. So what we did is we put together a special team to look at every patient that was at the VA hospital from the time that Swango entered to the time that he left. And this team consisted of Dr. Michael Baden, the world famous forensic pathologist, my investigators, a physician who was an expert on chart review. He could look at the charts and make a determination whether or not that patient should have expired when he did. And then also a forensic toxicologist, and at that time, a relatively new profession called forensic nursing. These are nurses that are trained in both forensic science and criminal justice, and they were outstanding. So we narrowed it down. This team narrowed it down to about 4 or 5 people we thought should not have expired when they did. So what did we do next? We had to go to the families and we had to ask them for permission to exhume their bodies. Now imagine, you get a visit from somebody like me and I say, excuse me, my name is Bruce Sackman. I'm from the VA Office of Inspector General. We have reason to believe that your father's death was of a suspicious nature. Can we have permission to go to the cemetery and dig up his body and run some test? Imagine getting a visit like that. Well, I can tell you the families were fantastic. They were really fantastic. It was a real shock to them, but they all agreed. And sometimes they would actually want to be at the cemetery to watch us exhume the body. And our agents would bring usually the wife flowers and treat them with the most respect.
Well, to get close to their loved one a second time is
yes,
it's a powerful thing, especially after years.
Unbelievable. And I had never been in an autopsy before because I had never done anything quite like this before. And all of a sudden, I find myself at the Suffolk County Medical Examiner with bodies half open and body parts being weighed and examined, and things I had never done before. Well, we made the determination that these 4 people should not have expired. These 4 vets should not have expired when they did. And we narrowed it down to 2 possible drugs that were available at the hospital at the time. One was called succinylcholine, which is a paralytic. If they want to put a tube down you, it temporarily paralyzes you. And the other one was epinephrine, which was adrenaline.
Yeah.
And the question is, could we find traces of this in embalmed tissue?
Yes.
And we asked the FBI for help, and they didn't want to help us. They
Well,
had
you can find it
before, and it didn't work, and they didn't want to help us. So we had to go to a private lab, a lab called the Reader's Lab in Pennsylvania, the largest private forensic lab in the country. And they made a determination that traces of these drugs could be found in the embalmed tissue. So Swango's about to get out of jail for lying to me. And he thinks he's just going to hop on the plane and head out to some other country and continue doing what he was doing. Well, not so fast, Dr. Swango, not so fast. So he actually gets indicted on Long Island. And at the same time, we get very lucky because the government of Zimbabwe enters into an extradition treaty with the United States. And they were just chomping at the bit to get their hands on this blonde-haired, blue-eyed doctor who murdered their people.
So hold on a second. So now they're suspecting, or they already knew this was happening?
Well, they're suspecting. They didn't have the proof that we did, but perhaps their proof is not the same as our proof here in the United States.
They don't need it. I mean, frankly, they'll just have a bunch of guys around a campfire and then be like, "You're done." We think you did it.
Yeah. So, we said
it's not exactly like that, but I mean, it's
no,
it's a little different.
He said, Dr. Swango, if you go to trial, and even if you're acquitted, I'm just going to put you on the plane and drop you off on the tarmac in Zimbabwe.
Oh yeah, you're fit.
Where there's an extradition treaty, please.
He wanted no part of that, did he?
Yeah, no, he decided to plead guilty. He decided
why?
to plead guilty real fast. And he got sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. He's in Supermax Federal Penitentiary now.
Well, just so you know, hold on a second, Bruce. Just so you know, with this new rotted judiciary, he might be out on parole in no time then.
Well, I hope not.
But I mean, that's the extent of what's happening.
Well, I'll tell you why I don't think so. I'll tell you why, Joe, because at his sentencing, the judge on Long Island said, I sentence you to 3 consecutive terms without the possibility of parole. If Congress should change the law and now have parole, your parole is denied in advance.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yes, he did.
I like that judge.
Hard to find judges like that nowadays.
Yeah, it's hard to find any judges that aren't just rotted and retarded, frankly. But we need to clone that judge. So, what was the judge's name? Do we know?
Yeah, it'll come to me in a second. I'm having a senior moment for a second.
Right.
He was an old, very distinguished judge. He'll come to me in a second. So after that case, all of a sudden, because I had one successful case, now I'm the expert on medical serial killers. I had one case, now I'm the expert. Well, next thing you know, there's a nurse in Massachusetts who's suspected of killing 30 veterans, also using epinephrine.
So what is it with you guys in the VAs and having a bunch of serial killers in there?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, and I think it's because the VA has an inspector general, and that the inspector general could just walk right into the hospital and get pretty much any document and interview anybody they want. Not that so way in the private sector.
Are you saying that this is probably still happening in the private sector? We just don't know about it?
Oh, it's happening all over the world. If you just Google medical serial killers, you'll see there was a recent nurse in England that murdered a number of children. She was convicted. We've had a number of cases here in the United States and Canada in the private sector, but they're pretty rare and far between. Look, the overwhelming majority of healthcare professionals are honest, hardworking, dedicated people. That's what enables these killers to get away with it, because they're in an environment of very caring professionals. If you're a killer and if you're in the mafia or an outlaw motorcycle gang, well, nobody's surprised about that. But if you're with a group of people who have actually taken an oath to save lives, who really try every day their best to save lives, it's very difficult, even for coworkers, to believe that one of their own is actually intentionally murdering patients. And this is one of the reasons why they get away with killing so many people. You know, the average medical serial killer, they kill about 60 people, I would say, before they get caught, somewhere between 30 and 60 people. You know, your traditional serial killers, 8 to 10 maybe, but they're amateurs really compared to my medical serial killers, to tell you the truth.
I don't
You
even know
know,
what
look,
to say right now.
if
I
you're
mean, I mean, now the question is going to come up when I ask every doctor I go in and say, "Hey, doc, how many people have died under your care?" They're going to say 10. And I'm like, I'm out. Find me a new doctor.
You know, look, if you're looking to choose a profession for murder, well, what profession might you choose? Well, you want to choose a profession where you have the power of life and death over an individual, right?
Yeah.
What professions do we know have that power? Well, there's police officers, you know, and some serial killers have masqueraded themselves as police officers. But what other professions do we know, like doctors and nurses, that essentially have that power of life and death over an individual? And how about working in a place where people take an oath to save lives? All right, who's going to suspect that someone is
Yeah.
actually intentionally taking lives when they take an oath that they're going to save lives? And look, how about working in a place where the victim and family trust you implicitly? You know, listen to that nurse, sweetheart. Listen to that doctor.
I would sound the same like the way you say for teachers. Now we have teachers that are a bunch of diabolical people that are grooming our children, and now we have doctors and nurses that are knocking people off by the hundreds. That's,
Oh, look, and how about working in a place where the strong and assertive all of a sudden become the meek and mild? You know, you ever go in an emergency room and see this big construction worker terrified of this little nurse coming over with this big needle, they give him an injection, and they don't ask questions.
oh, I
They're
do.
doing well. The majority of people don't ask questions. They just accept whatever treatment they get. So you could see, and look, how about working in a place where there's a shortage of skilled workers? You know, sometimes for nurses, well, we had to go all the way to the Philippines to recruit them. You know, I mean, and in some locations in the United States, it's very, very hard still to find doctors and nurses. So if there's, you know, if we didn't do such a great background investigation, well, excuse me, we couldn't find anybody. We couldn't find anybody to fill that. So you could see now how something like this is just going to start to percolate. You know, how about working in a place where death is an everyday occurrence? You know, I mean, if somebody dies in a hospital, a nursing home, is that going to make the news? I mean, is that going to have an investigation? And I tell you this, almost all of them work alone at night. You know, like that 3 a.m. They call it the graveyard shift, where there's practically no family, no coworkers, and that gives them the opportunity to kill, you know. And I could tell you this, a
Do you have
hospital.
trouble, Doc? Do you have trouble going to? I mean, sorry, Bruce. Do you have trouble going to the doctors now? Do you have trouble like walking in and
No,
sitting
you
down
know, I
and
I
being
I
like
really don't. I think they
reaching
have
for the
trouble with
pistola?
me.
You're like it's in your waistband. You're like, "What's up, bro? How you doing? Okay,
Um,
hey, I'm just gonna take your blood pressure. Let me see it first. Let me see the blood pressure. Let me inspect it. All right, that looks okay. That's fine. All right,
I'll,
careful.
I'll tell you something else that helps them too is that cops don't want to do investigations in hospitals.
No,
First of
oh,
all, most cops don't become cops because we're good in chemistry and biology. Okay. That's
true
the
story.
first thing. Second thing is we're very, very dependent on the doctors. I mean, who are we to challenge the doctors and the nurses? We don't really understand the science. We don't even understand the law. They have this HIPAA law, you know, this Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. What records can I get? What records do I need a subpoena for? What records do I need a court order for?
It's too much work.
Well, I don't really want it. I don't really want to go in there. And if the hospital management tells me, we've conducted an investigation and we've come to the determination that all these patients expired as a direct result of their natural disease processes. Well, I'm not going to argue with that. I'm going to accept that. And this is why medical serial killers get away with killing so many people, Joe.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think we should bring back executions for people like this? I mean, do you think that? I mean, look, we tend to show mercy to those that show no mercy. I mean, shouldn't we just quick death, man? Just boom, execute and be done with them. Like, let them not breathe another moment. Why is it that? And this is biblical, by the way. So this appears in the Old Testament, eye for an eye. New Testament, that you should have accountability, right? Why is it that we show such regard for evil when evil shows no regard for us?
Well, you know what? If somebody killed my father at the VA hospital, would I want to see him get the chair? Oh, absolutely. But on the other hand, I could tell you that there have been a couple of acquittals of medical serial killers who were convicted first and then overturned, usually because of questionable science. So this is the dilemma
I mean,
have.
questionable science when you have like 10 or 12. Come on now. Nobody's that unlucky. I mean, they might have gotten off, but
Yeah. You know what? So because it's easy to make a mistake, I kind of wrestle with this because I know how the families feel, how I would feel, how most people would feel. Imagine if your dad went through the war, survived the war, only to get murdered at a VA hospital. I mean, I don't even know how I would react, to tell you the truth, but I would certainly want the person who did that
alive.
eliminated from the face of the earth.
I struggle with this. I struggle with this because if anybody ever hurt anyone in my family, I would, if they were in prison, I would find a way to get into the prison, which means I got to commit a crime in order to get there, which means I got to commit a crime that would get me there. That would not be, I'd go just train to be a prison guard. I mean, I literally would do whatever it took to take out that person.
No, I understand.
And I wish I wasn't that way. I wish I wasn't that way, but I know who I am. Like, I know.
And look, I'm not talking about malpractice because
that happens.
An accidental death, because it can happen. I mean, it can happen. But these people intended to murder their patients from day one. From day one, they intended to murder their patients. There was at the U.S. Veterans Affairs Hospital in Columbus, Missouri, there was a nurse by the name of Richard Williams.
Yeah.
Every time Richard Williams was on duty, the death rate would go up. As a matter of fact, this is pretty common. In my book, I list the red flags. And one of the red flags to watch out for medical serial killers is this. Every time Nurse Bruce is on duty, the death rate goes up. Nurse Bruce takes a week vacation, the death rate goes down. That doesn't automatically mean that Bruce is a serial killer. Maybe he has the most complex cases. Maybe there's another reason for it. But I think we should start looking, And the second thing is that these patients weren't expected to expire when they did, Joe. And that's a big difference. If you ever had a loved one in the hospital who was really sick, a grandparent or something, I mean, you kind of expected them to expire. The staff expected them to expire. So their passing, as terrible as it was not unexpected. These people sometimes were actually improving, and their family would go on vacation only to get a call from Dr. Swango, for instance, telling them how their dad had expired and reliving for them the last 30 minutes of his life before he died, because this was his second bite of the apple. The first bite of the apple was actually killing the patient. The second bite was calling the family and reliving the experience for them. Imagine that. Could you imagine that?
No, because I'm
Yeah.
not a psycho killer. And I can't imagine it. Like I just, I mean, I sit here and think about this, like what you're saying, and then my mind goes straight to COVID. Like how many people, man, how many people they killed during COVID that didn't need to die?
Well, it's very interesting that you mentioned COVID, because I'll tell you a little bit about COVID. And there are a couple of ongoing cases now involving doctors that allegedly murdered patients during COVID.
Right.
But this is what happened during COVID. You know, all of a sudden, even the best hospitals were inundated. They were just inundated with patients. They didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
So what they had to do is they had to reach out to these traveling nurses who travel from one hospital to the next, and rotate, and they make a lot of money because they get extra pay for that. And the majority of them were good, really good. But there was a small minority that weren't so good. In fact, many of them had gotten in trouble at the previous hospital, but they never mentioned it at the new hospital they were. And some of them came from different hospital systems. They didn't understand how drugs are obtained. There were a number of things they were behind the eight ball on. So I had actually a number of cases involving these traveling nurses where they were stealing drugs. They were actually drug seeking patients, and they got thrown out of hospital A and they went to hospital B, and hospital B never learned that at hospital A they were thrown out for stealing drugs. And I had a few of those cases. So yeah, COVID was very, very rough. And unfortunately, a number of the background investigations were put together very, very quickly. Well, it's like this, Joe. If the enemy's coming over the hill,
Yeah.
the thousands, do you have time to do a thorough background investigation on every soldier? Or you just want to put somebody up on the front lines?
Well, you put someone up on the
Essentially
front
what
lines,
happened,
and
they put
unfortunately,
somebody on the front lines.
you're I've made a couple bad hires in my days, for sure. Right. I've had a couple of really psychotic people work for my companies. But it taught me what to look for when I went to hire new people. Right. And I almost feel, this is going to sound bad, that when we started instituting HR departments, that's when all of our problems started. Because they don't know what to look for. And then somebody starts and you look over and you're like, you're a serial killer. I haven't had a serial killer work for me, but
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah,
but
HR departments, I was often in conflict with them because when I caught somebody stealing drugs, I wanted them arrested and prosecuted. And the HR department, well, they didn't really want to see bad publicity. They thought maybe the person should receive treatment and therapy. And we had differences of opinion when it came to that.
I have therapy too. Here's my therapy. You're fired. Go find.
Yeah, and
That's my therapy.
right. And I wanted to go one step further. You know, it's interesting with Richard Williams, the nurse from Missouri. The management suspected Richard of doing something. So you know what?
This is the one that killed a bunch of people as a nurse, right?
Yeah, he's a nurse that killed a number of people at the Harry S. Truman Medical Center in Missouri, allegedly. Because I'll tell you why it's allegedly, but. So what happened was that when Richard Williams was under suspicion, the management said, "Oh, I have an idea. Let's assign another nurse to work with Richard." And when that other nurse worked with Richard, the death rate was fine. But if that other nurse had to take a day off, a couple of days vacation, guess what happened to the death rate? It went right back up again. And one of the families sued. And the judge on the civil side, now let's think about OJ here. The judge on the civil side said, "Yes, I think Richard did kill these people." but that's not the same as a criminal conviction. That was only civil. And we were ready to go forth. We had actually indicted Richard William on 13 counts of murder. And then remember I talk about the bad science? Well, this is what happened.
This is one of those.
This is one of the things where there was new, and anytime you're dealing with new science, you got to fasten your seatbelt because there are going to be challenges like crazy. And what happened was the Reader's Lab said, succinylcholine, that's what Richard Williams used. And the FBI ran a test and they couldn't duplicate what the Reader's Lab said. So the district attorney at that time declined to prosecute the case, which I was very, very upset about because the science had actually gone bad on another case, Kristen Gilbert nurse, but we were able to show that the deaths were consistent with epinephrine poisoning. In this case, the prosecutor would not go forward with the case against Richard Williams. So Richard Williams leaves the VA. He goes to a private nursing home. And you want to guess what happened at that private nursing home?
Lots of people died.
Exactly. And he still didn't get charged for that. And that, it's in my book, but that is the story that sticks in my craw.
So where is he now?
To this day, he's home. He's not working. He's not in the medical profession at all. He lives with a relative, and it's really, I feel for the families. I feel bad for everybody. It's a terrible.
So this guy that killed all these people is now out of the medical profession, but he's living his best life.
That is correct. That is correct. That is correct. You know.
I need a minute.
Really
I need a minute. It's not funny, by the way. I just can't. I can't imagine. I don't know.
I know. You know, people have written books about it, the case, and they've tried everything, but I was kind of hoping maybe one day he would have a come to Jesus moment, but I don't really see it. And
on his deathbed, maybe.
It's just, yeah. You know what? I mean, there are allegations that he killed out, because many of these medical serial killers, they're so successful. This is what happens. If you're a medical serial killer and you kill 10 or 12 patients and nobody even questions you, nobody even at the hospital questions you, you might start to believe that you were actually ordained by the Almighty to do this. And then some of them try to kill their landladies, their girlfriends, their partners, because after all, they killed so many people in the hospital and nobody ever questioned it. Look, like I say, a number of these patients, some of them are in the ICU, the intensive care unit. If you're in the intensive care unit, you're pretty sick. You're pretty sick. So to try to prove that somebody was murdered in the intensive care
unit,
is extraordinarily difficult. And you know what happens? Once in a while, Joe, a patient will survive. All right, Nurse Bruce tried to kill me, but the patient survived. So he tells that to management. And you know what management says? If you keep saying that, we're going to make a little notation in your chart that you're obviously suffering from the numerous effects of the multiple medications you're under. It's called hospital delirium. Oh, it's a real condition, hospital delirium. So you see, that Nurse Bruce wasn't really trying to kill you. You just have delirium from all those drugs you're under. And when I make this presentation, I show a film. And in this film, there's a patient in Ohio who says, Dr. Swango, this blonde-haired, blue-eyed doctor, came over to me, injected me with something, and waved bye-bye. And then she almost died. Fast forward to Zimbabwe. A patient says, this blonde-haired, blue-eyed doctor named Michael Swango came over, injected me with something, and waved bye-bye. Hospital delirium is an easy answer. If you're management in the hospital, the last thing you want is the word to get out that there's a medical serial killer.
Right.
And let me tell you something that we find out about these cases goes to these brave whistleblowers, these people that come forth because they suspect something. And
Yeah.
what do you think happens to them? You
Well, I'm
think
going
that
to tell you. I'm going to tell you what happens to them because there's not a whistleblower in the last 30 years that has been treated kindly.
That's right.
Right? They haven't been, and it's
That's right.
the cover-ups, and that's I think the most disturbing part about all of this is that the cover-ups, no matter what level we're talking about, whether we're talking about in government or private industry or the elections, those whistleblowers are made the pariahs of society.
Oh,
Why?
absolutely.
Why?
That's absolutely because nobody wants this negative attention brought on them or their institution. When Kristen Gilbert, the nurse
They'd
in,
rather have a medical serial killer.
yeah, well, that's, believe it or not, they would just like the person fired and to move on. You know, there's a famous case about a medical serial killer, who, as a matter of fact, there's a couple of TV shows about him. Actually, he started in Pennsylvania and he worked his way to New Jersey, and he worked in 10 different hospitals. Okay, when the first hospital suspected something, did they say anything to the second hospital? Who did they say anything to the third hospital, the fourth or the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth? Finally, at the 10th hospital, some whistleblower came forward. And when the cops went back to all the other hospitals, you think they cooperated?
No.
No, just the opposite.
But
Just the opposite.
why is it that I kind of feel like they do this to whistleblowers so that they can get other people not to? It creates this chill effect
Correct.
across. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to get involved. And people just died. I don't want to be involved. And you're thinking to yourself, what is wrong with it's a complete lack of humanity.
Well, I'll give you a prime example of that. There were these two nurses in Texas, in the oil basin in Texas, where it was extremely hard to find doctors and nurses. These two nurses were the entire compliance department, and they said, we think this doctor is intentionally harming patients. Let's go to the management. And they went to the management, and management said, you know how hard it is to find doctors in Kermit, Texas? Why? We have to go all the way to the Philippines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you know what, nurses? Why don't you just go back to your little compliance office and be happy you have a job? And these two nurses said, well, what the hell do we do now? So one said, I have an idea. Let's send an anonymous letter to the state medical board about this doctor. Well, he gets wind of it, and boy, is he pissed. So he calls the local sheriff, who was one of his patients, and he says, Sheriff, I think these women are intentionally trying to harm my reputation. And the sheriff says, don't worry about it, Doc. I'm on the case. He gets a search warrant for their hospital computers and shows that they were the ones that authorized that anonymous letter to the state, and has them arrested and prosecuted for misuse of official information, which is a felony in those parts. These women now, they are fired. They have to pay for their own defense. They face criminal charges, goes to trial. The jury's out for about a half hour. They come back and they say, what, are you kidding me? These nurses deserve a medal for what they did, not to be criminally prosecuted. But what kind of message, Joe, does that send out to other potential whistleblowers? Hey, did you hear about those nurses in Texas? Did you hear what happened to them? Do you want to go through what they went through? Then keep your mouth shut and don't say anything.
I went through this with the Coomer deal for the elections. Guys on an Antifa call. I'm on the Antifa call. I checked them out. I got all the information on them. I told the truth about everything. Got sued for defamation. I got slandered across the entire country. I mean, it's been pandemonium.
Yeah.
And now they're pissed because they don't want me to stand up. I stand up and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to stand up. So I stand up and I keep standing, and they're like, why does this guy keep standing up? And I guess I do it just because I want other whistleblowers to know that it's okay. You can come out the other side.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? We've passed laws to protect the whistleblowers
No, we haven't. No, we haven't. There's no. I mean, you pass laws that they just walk past and spit on when they're actually, hey, there's a law against
very
this.
very tough for the whistle. And you know what happens? Here, let's say, Joe, you say, I saw this, I believe this nurse Bruce is intentionally killing people. This is the reaction you're going to get. Hey, Joe, did you actually see Bruce kill anybody? No.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question about your own background, Joe. Is your license up to snuff? Have you ever used drug? If we drug test you right now, Joe, if we drug test you, are you going to be positive? I'm only saying this for your own protection, Joe, only for your own protection, because if you make these allegations, then you're sort of under investigation yourself. You sure you want to go forward with this, Joe? Are you sure?
No, that sounds all too familiar. I mean, what you're saying sounds all too familiar.
Yeah.
Given the fact that we have so much distrust for institutions, how do you fix this?
Oh, boy.
How do you fix it?
Well, I always say management sets the tone. And the last hospital I worked with, I was very impressed with management. We had this potential fraud case, and the dean said, there'll be no cover-ups, and we're going to call the police. I almost fell off the chair because I thought that I was going to hear, well, how do we cover that? How do we not tell the police? So management sets the tone. It's interesting because if you're a whistleblower on a fraud case, you could actually make money. I mean, they have this thing called key. Are you familiar with this, Joe? Key tam lawsuits?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's sealed, de-sealed.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you blow the whistle about a doctor or nurse who's harming their patients, there's no key tam. There's no financial benefit.
Right.
Just the opposite. And what's going to happen to the manager? The manager is going to stay. He's going to get his bonuses. He's going to do everything just to protect the institution. And until that changes, I think we'll be having this conversation more than once.
Well, I hope we don't have this conversation more than once. That'd be the ideal. Bruce, thanks for bringing it to light. It probably wasn't that easy for you. It probably was more of a, you probably had to fight a whole lot of uphill battles. And we say it all the time, like, why is common sense not being applied here? Why are we having this conversation? And
there were many uphill battles, many internal battles with other agencies, battles within my own agencies, battle with the FBI. It's all in the book, but I'd do it again tomorrow if I had to. Do it again. Mm-hmm.
I got one last question for you before I let you go.
Okay.
Is Fauci Dr. Death? In your opinion, is
I really
Dr. Fauci
don't have,
Dr. Death?
I really don't have enough information.
Somebody asked me to ask you that question. Fauci, they're talking about Dr. Death being Fauci, and I was like, I'll ask. Okay.
I don't know. That moniker has gone to so many doctors these days. As soon as there's a serial killer, Dr. Death, the angel of death, right? They all have the same.
The stuff he said about AIDS, and it was so wrong. You could look across the room and someone could catch it. I mean, he's been saying some crazy stuff for 40 years.
Yeah, well, he's been around. He was around a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, we won't call him Dr. Death. Sorry, guys. I didn't get the answer you wanted.
Okay.
Bruce, where can they find your book?
Okay, it's called Behind the Murder Curtain, and you could get it on Amazon or just about anywhere. And if people read it, I always enjoy it when they write a little review of it. And the website is the same name. I still get calls many years later from families who feel that their dad, or sometimes on rare occasions their mom, was actually murdered at a VA hospital. Very, very sad. It just kind of brings me back. But that's the book, and I'm always interested in getting emails and correspondence from people and answering their questions. Always happy to help.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm telling him to put it back up. You can't put up a blurry picture, guys. You're doing it the last couple of days. Please Put up the picture that's not blurry. Can we do that? Can we put up a picture of the book that's not blurry? Please. I'll take that as it. That we can't do it. Can we put it back up and not have it be blurry? Because I couldn't read it, and I know that it's on the screen unreadable. So if we could fix it, it'd be great. Okay. Here's what I promise we'll do, Bruce. We'll get it up there. We did put it in the comments as well, for where you can actually go buy the book.
All right. Thank you very much.
Dr. Kevorkian. How is the people bringing up comments about Dr. Kevorkian?
No, it's not the same.
No, not at all. The people went to him to end their life. It's a little bit different. A little bit different.
I mean, if people start doing research, they'll see these cases all over the world. They'll see a nurse in Germany that killed, well, we think close to 300 people. There's a doctor in England named Harold Shipman, who is the undefeated champion of medical serial killers. He killed about 300 people.
Unbelievable.
And there are others. There are others.
All right, Bruce, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you very much, and I'm going to read your book. And then
Thank you.
I hope it's insightful to how we can get whistleblowers to feel like they can still come forward even through the pain. I think that's probably the thing that has been most noticeable for me. The last 6 years have been painful, but worth it. But getting other people to realize that it's worth it, that becomes something totally different.
Right. I mean, there are organizations now like Whistleblowers of America that help whistleblowers. That's a very good organization. But if you're going to be a whistleblower, you got to fasten your seatbelt because you're going to be in for the ride of your life.
It's not fair. It's not fair.
No.
Bruce, thanks a lot. Appreciate you.
All right. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We're going to go to a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the fact that the government, even when they get it right, can't seem to get it right. The SPLC was indicted. Where are the names? When we come back, we'll talk more about that.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the guns. We got small guns. We got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. It's hot.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Oh boy. So where do we start here? I don't even know where to start on this because they didn't name anyone. Let's start with this. This is from Fox News. Play it.
Center has long held itself up as one of the country's leading civil rights groups. And now its leaders are facing a wild federal indictment on fraud charges. The DOJ says the group paid white supremacists to stir up trouble with other extremists. In short, funding the groups it says it fights. The charges accuse the SPLC of shady payments of $3 million, including $73,000 to the former KKK members and more than $300,000 to Aryan Nations affiliate. The SPLC slaps the tag of hate group on conservative organizations all the time. It did just that to Turning Point USA just months before Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
Here's the bad part as we start looking at this, is that you can't seem to you can't get to the bottom of it. Now, I will tell you that the SPLC, I started an organization called FEC United. And FEC United, I'm just starting to make sure that it's still on the list. Yep, still on the list. FEC United was considered a hate group. And Gays Against Groomers is a hate group. And We Are Change is a hate group. This is a real thing. Like, they have the amount of things that they have out there. Focus on the Family is a hate group. Any Christian organization out there is a hate group. Hate group. They're all hate groups. Pray in Jesus' Name. Hate group. Tactical Civics. Tactical Civics. They teach you about the Constitution. Hate group. They're not the only hate group. Now buckle up, because we're going to have to talk about this for a minute. The Anti-Defamation League. The Jewish, what was the name of that organization called? The Jewish Coalition. Hold on, let me make sure I get this for you really quick. Jewish Colorado and the Colorado Jewish Action Alliance. So they get to do whatever they want. These organizations get to hide and say, we're Jewish, you can't say anything about us because you're an anti-Semite if you do. But they're walking around wreaking havoc on communities. And the more people that I talk to that are Jewish, by faith, think that these organizations are nothing but hired henchmen. I got to the bottom of all of that, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But let's focus in on the SPLC for a minute. They were convicted of wire fraud, or excuse me, they indictments on wire fraud, bank fraud, false statements, conspiracy to commit money laundering. Yet not one individual and one executive has been publicly charged. How is it possible? No. See, the wire fraud happened on its own, just tripped like a gun going off and shooting someone all by itself. So does the SPLC. The fact that they could even go through this indictment without actually naming the people responsible is even worse. The charges are against the organization as a whole, not naming staff members, which means no one goes to jail for felonies committed. Let me say that again. No one goes to jail. The prosecutors say that they secretly paid millions to informants, which they did. They used shell entities or hidden channels, did not disclose this to donors. The SPLC says, well, the programs were used to gather intelligence, prevent violence. No, they weren't. They've literally created just like the ADL, just like these guys out there that do everything they can to say, white people are bad, we're not white. We're not white. We're here to help the black community. Yes, we're here to help the black community. Go kill your babies. It's the opposite. It's like opposite day for everything. Everything that the devil does is all a lie. But now it's exacerbated by these organizations that take money from the government, weaponize it, go after you and say, hey, listen, the only people that are protected in the country are Jews. That's it. No one else is protected. And here's the problem. The Jews are not the ones in all of this. They're just as much a victim. They're not the ones in this that are pulling these triggers. These triggers are being pulled by really evil people behind evil organizations that are political henchmen. And their job is to put up this barrier and to use dog whistles in order to control the communities and to slander people with impunity. That's the reality. White supremacy in this country is orchestrated. Are there white supremacists? Yeah, sure, there is. Absolutely. Go ahead and put this up. White supremacy was orchestrated. Much of what you hate your fellow Americans was staged, folks, completely funded. This is the United States against the Southern Poverty Law Center. You can go right now to the Southern Poverty Law Center and go to the hate map. And as you go through it, FEC United. Here, let me just go ahead and send this to you really quick. You guys can put this up here real quick. They've been using dog whistles for a long time. They've been covering up their crimes by using dog whistles. And I want to point out something else. Eric Coomer sued FEC United, sued my company, sued me, didn't sue me, didn't just sue me, went after everything around me in order to destroy, because that's the whole goal, right? Use lawfare to destroy. Why is it that the map cannot be seen? Please tell me. Why can't I see the map? Why is the map foggy? Please fix it. Can we fix it? Somebody give me a response. Fix it. There's got to be a way to fix it. I mean, it's not. I've done lots of presentations with stuff with Zoom, and it's not been like that. Well, let me just tell you. The first one at the top is Faith, Education, and Commerce, FEC United. FEC United in Northern Colorado. Here's a chapter in El Paso County and Larimer County, all on the list for being a hate group. Tactical Civics in Fountain is a hate group. Take it down, please. Nobody can see it. They can't see it. They can't read it. It's foggy. And please, let's get that fixed for tomorrow if we can. Tactical Civics in every area, they're all bad people. These are all bad people. The SPLC says they're bad people, so they're bad people. The ADL comes out and says they're bad people and they can slander you, and they just get away with it. Do whatever you want. This isn't a country of laws. We don't have a country right now, guys. We don't have a country. There is no country right now when one group can come out and use a dog whistle and take you out. And the SPLC put every Christian organization out there that does good in the state of Colorado and around the country on the hate map. There should be a class action lawsuit against the SPLC. Oh, but that's right. It's publicly funded. It never ends. It doesn't end. And how about this? They created Charlottesville to create the false narrative that President Donald Trump was a racist, white supremacist, and embarrass Republicans into distancing themselves from him. This is Lara Logan that's put it up. Those of us who question this narrative were immediately falsely branded as far right. We were right, but not right wing. We saw the truth and spoke up. How about the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers? If they don't create the org, they infiltrate and distort it. And for many years, the FBI have been complicit, creating online chats and entrap and frame too many Americans, then criminally present those as real terrorist threats while allowing the actual terrorist threats of radical Islamists protected, funded by the left and the globalists to spread. That was always part of the plan. Look, I'm going to win this arm wrestling, but before I get to the arm wrestling part about Kyle Clark and the ADL Anti-Defamation League and what's about to happen, which I've now said, and I thought it was because I thought Kyle reached out to me this morning. Kyle Clark's the 9 News anchor. I thought he reached out to me because he got served. Turns out he reached out to me and hasn't been served yet because I guess they haven't finished the process. And he asked me, they sent another letter to stop you from becoming the state chair of the Republican Party of Colorado. Deathly afraid that I'm going to come in and fix something that they've all broken. But here, I want to remind you what the SPLC was doing in 2021, and that the Biden FBI was behind it. This is what they were doing. They were targeting Catholics as domestic extremists, Play it.
The FBI utilized a so-called hate map from the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, as it was going after traditional Catholics and labeling them domestic extremists. Do you think that that's an appropriate source?
Absolutely not.
Do you know some of the other groups that the SPLC labels as hate groups or extremist groups?
No, I don't, off the top of my head.
I can name a few. They also name the Alliance Defending Freedom, the Family Research Council, and Moms for Liberty as hate groups as well. Do you find it concerning that they were using the SPLC as a source?
Yeah, I find it deeply concerning.
Do you think that Catholics who celebrate the traditional Latin Mass are a threat to the American people?
I don't, because I'm one that does that on occasion.
Can you recall, before Joe Biden was in office, any time whenever the FBI specifically targeted a group of Americans solely because of their religious faith?
No.
Do you think there's any evidence to suggest that harassing Catholic Americans keeps Americans safe?
Not at all.
This is an organization in our country. This is much like every other organization out there that tries to destroy whistleblowers, go after people that are doing good, trying to restore ethics and morals. Anyone that comes out and tries to do a greater good to protect our community are all put down by organizations like the Anti-Defamation League and the SPLC. It's not an isolated event. And if you go to the SPLC site, just so read off some of these things that are on the whole hate map. There's statewide organizations and there's local organizations. Colorado Alliance for Immigration Reform, hate group. It's anti-immigrant. Family Policy Alliance, anti-LGBTQ. Family Research Institute, anti-LGBTQ. Focus on the Family, anti-LGBTQ. Gays Against Groomers, Colorado Chapter, anti-LGBTQ. Generations, anti-LGBTQ. The Pray in Jesus' Name Project, anti-LGBTQ. Colorado Eagle Forum. You don't even want to know what they say that's an anti-government general organization. Constitution Party is anti-government, or the Constitution Party. Anti-government general, Faith, Education, Commerce, FEC United, North Colorado. Freedom First Society, anti-government. Moms for Liberty, anti-government. Moms for Liberty, anti-government. All the way down. Parents Involved in Education Colorado, Aaron's Group, anti-government. Tactical Civics, anti-government. We Are Change, anti-government. Scriptures for America Worldwide Ministries. Christian Identity. American Freedom Network. Conspiracy Propagandists. Northern Kingdom Prophets, General Hate. Colorado Mountain Boys, Militia. I mean, this is crazy. As I look at the things that are on this list, it is unbelievable. I mean, think about this. They get to just walk in and say, hate group, hate group, hate group. And if you go down even further, the SPLC lists some crazy. Yeah, I guess the Goyim Defense League would probably be, that's kind of you could probably get away with saying that that's probably not a good organization, considering they're basically just saying they're going against Jewish people. Why is it that the people that are out there, Faith, Education, Commerce, also known as FEC United, is an anti-government group with its own militia that uses violent rhetoric when talking about public officials, propagates conspiracy theories, and hosts and participates in activities related to disinformation and anti-democracy. And it's got a picture of me up there. When does it end? When does it end? When do the dog whistles and when does it all end? You know, Kyle Clark in 9 News has been doing damage to the state for about a decade. They've been doing real damage. There was a protest, a Back to Blue protest in October of 2020. And a 9 News unlicensed security guard provoked a fight and then shot and killed a man in cold blood. Then the Denver Police Department decided we're not going to charge him. There was no threat. He wasn't in fear for his life. There was no advancement that was made. There was nobody pulled a gun. He did nothing wrong. It's all on video. It's very clear to see. And Matthew Doloff murdered a man in cold blood. And then they let him go. We are in a backwards world because we've allowed backwards to stay on top. And they're pushing us and pushing us and pushing us. And pretty soon the bow is going to break. And when it does, it's going to be really bad for them. But they're waiting for it. Because the government stick has always been good people that go to work and get a good job and trying to. So they're going to use the very people in our community that don't believe a word that they're saying to actually attack us, to defend them. 56 cents on every dollar goes to governments. You're less than a half of a person. More meat off the bone than you can afford. You and your wife have to both go work. You and your husband have to both go work just to try and get close to 100% of what a normal person would make if they went out there to make a living wage. You struggle to try and push forward to make some success and to create some opportunity for yourself, but you can't. Because they put a weight on your ankle and said, and if you get out of line, we will use the ADL. We will use the SPLC. If you try to basically restore things to a place where it makes sense and you don't let us groom your children, you don't let us do things that we want to do that's evil against our community, we're just going to bash you with slander. And what's even worse about that is people in our own communities, they listen to it. They establish the character of men and women based upon people like Kyle Clark, a sick leftist individual who's about to find out that your words have consequences. And he's going to say, well, won't survive anti-slap. And I'll be like, well, you lied everywhere. You lied. Just like the SPLC lied, just like the ADL lied. And they relied on you when they lied. And 9 News is going to have to make a choice, but you're not getting your contract renewed anyway. So you're gone. So I wonder if you're doing this just to take another stab at 9 News on your way out the door. It won't matter because I'm coming after you personally. The lies just stack up over and over and over and over again. And we already know the ADL through some sort of Snapchat or Signal chat. Hey, will you run a story? We need cover. We need cover. We need to be able to hurt Joe Oltmann because he was running for governor. And we tried to go to the Republican Party and they wouldn't listen. And now we're going to slander him even further and say, we're going to double down on this. After I called them out. After I called them out, they went right back out to let's punish Joe Oltmann more. I want to put this up. You have clowns trying to attack white people. I don't care if you're white, black, green, yellow, purple. You have clowns trying to attack whites. Check this. All of them, even the purple ones with webbed feet, should be executed. So they want to make this thing where if you're a white person, you should be shamed because 58% of child molesters are white dads. Right? Here's the only problem. Go ahead and click on that picture if you would. These are the white people that they're talking about. Yep. Zoa, who's probably from some sort of Asian country, she's now white. Lopez, he's white. Mario Tehran, he's white too. Oh, here you go. Marissa, she looks white for sure. I don't even know what Daryl is. Daryl just looks, he called in retarded. Adina, certainly white. Yeah, here's another one. Valero, white. Here we go. These guys down here, they look completely white, don't they? You got Diego, he's totally white. You got Alejandro, he's white, right? You got Gadel, he's white. here's the reality. They want to play identity politics. They want to basically destroy our communities. They want to create more chaos. They're so worried about me going in and actually taking care of the Republican Party, and they create all these falsities everywhere, and nobody does anything about it. We sit around and we placate to it because we're afraid. Everyone's afraid to talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about the schoolyard bully. You can't hit the bully in the face. 18 times Kyle Clark has run a special on me. 18 times. 18 times Kyle Clark has run a special on me and used 9 News as the bully pulpit in order to do it. SPLC runs and says that I run faith, education, and commerce, 3 things that are critical to what we have in our society. Said that organization is there is a conspiracy here. That organization 100% is an anti-governmental group, which we weren't anti-government at all. We wanted churches to be open. We wanted children not to be groomed, and we wanted the ability for people to have opportunities with businesses. We ran those separately, those units. We didn't have a militia, but they can lie with impunity because who's going to challenge them? And when you do challenge them, you got to go sit in front of a judge. So I went ahead and said, all right, I'm done. I'm going to try the entire case in the court of public opinion. I'm going to literally hire attorneys to go after all of these people. And then I'm just going to expose every part of it from the end to end, because you don't get to just do what you're doing and bully people inside of a schoolyard. And the Coomer attorneys, oh my gosh. You should see what those guys are doing. And you should see what the judges are doing in order to back them up. It's the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in my life. Pathetic. Because the entire system in the state of Colorado is rotted to the core. When a judge is coming to me telling me, hey, Joe, listen, it's really bad. You have no idea what these people are doing. They're disgusting, evil people. And I've been on the bench for a long time. And you have previous judges that come forward and says, you have no idea what they're doing. They actually come to me and say, if you do not do this, do what the public defender is asking for, then you're out. Let the criminal go. We don't have a country anymore. This isn't a country. This isn't a country. This isn't a country. I can tell you right now, Colorado isn't. But we're going to find out. We're going to find out just how rotted the federal judiciary is. We're going to run it all the way up. So let's talk about this, though. This is residents speaking at the city council for Seattle. This is what Americans are being spit on right now. And if you're not pissed, you should be. Show it.
Discouraging to come up here and see all the heads down. It's like,
Sir, you're on a 2-minute timer here, so let's go.
I'm not following you.
You're on a 2-minute timer.
Could you start it over, please?
No, we're not going to. Just go ahead.
So it was unreasonable for you to ask that people look up and give me their attention?
Sir, you have 2 minutes. We're all looking at you. You have 2 minutes. Now you have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Last week, you limited, this kind of goes to the heart of what I was going to talk about, which was the state of our democracy. Last week, you limited speakers because of the number of speakers to 1 minute each, but you allowed Pramila Jayapal to speak as long as she wanted to. It was 4 or 5 minutes. And it reminded me of George Orwell's famous saying from Animal Farm about how all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. I immediately got a hostile response back from you. I don't understand that. That you think that asking for you guys to look up off of your computers and give attention during this short period of time was an unreasonable thing. I really feel bad about that.
See, he's a nonviolent man. One of the fears that people have is that we get to pick and choose the words violence. We go into abomination, we go into Iran, and we kill tens of thousands of people, and that's acceptable. It's not violence at all. Matter of fact, the word violence never comes up. It's strategic. We strategically are doing the things that are necessary in order to protect our interests. We see that reflected when the Strait of Hormuz was closed. Oil prices spiked up. It was going to destroy our economy. We had to find a way, so we used violence in order to get what we wanted. Violently went out and we bombed the living shit out of pretty much everyone in Iran. And then we shut down the Strait of Hormuz and says, okay, fine, nobody goes in and out. And there's an anger and helplessness that I can see in the people of Iran because I've been in the Middle East. I've been in countries that have been held hostage. Now, two things can be true at the same time. I can say, I'm okay with what we're doing in Iran. We can't have another decade or 2 decades of whatever this madness is. And also say that doesn't extend to Lebanon. Doesn't extend to Lebanon. I should be able to look at every situation objectively and say, what you're doing shows a lack of regard and it's violent. Violence is never a word they use, though. It's only a word that they use when we, people, fight back against the tyranny that we're subjected to. There's never a time where we actually get to speak about the harms that have been done to our own people. Those are statistics, not violence. When elections are stolen and people are put out of work and women are raped, children are groomed, all of that is not considered violence. When you ask a mother, what will you do to protect your children? They say, I'll kill for your children. And I said to them, why haven't you killed anyone? I ask a man what he would do to protect his children. He says, I would die for my children. Why are you not dead? I have spent the vast majority of my life serving. And in that service, I get people like Kyle Clark. They get to mock that service. You got people like Kyle Clark that 18 times get to tell stories about Joe Oltmann so that they can try and destroy and defame me across the entire state using the bullet pulpit in order to destroy people, which, by the way, is not covered by anti-SLAPP. See, anti-SLAPP is telling a story about someone, not telling story after story after story after story and beating the drum over and over and over again in order to defame and to create some sort of idea of this is what I heard. That's actually not what anti-SLAPP was built for. Anti-SLAPP was built for you tell a story and you don't take responsibility for it and you defame someone. And, it's, is a journalistic activity? Yeah. But 18 times is not journalistic activity. That's harassment. That's bullying. That's doing exactly what the system is designed to do and destroy an individual's character to the free world while that person's character stands still and takes the beating. So Kyle Clark is in for a rude awakening. But we still have to come back to what the definition of violence is. And why is one thing acceptable and one thing not? Why are we not allowed to fight back as Americans? Because if we do, we're considered anti-Semites. We're considered racist. We're considered homophobes. We get to create and move and have organizations like the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, and the SPLC, and these organizations do real harm to our communities. They're terrorists. These are terroristic bullies that are doing real harm to the people in our country, of which 98% are not represented by them. The Anti-Defamation League can go out there with impunity, put their saber in the ground and say, anti-Semite. They can write letters to the Republican Party saying, we want you to deplatform this man. They can write letters and have influence over social platforms and say, we need to make sure we silence him and take down his available reach. We can protect one group, one class of people while we let evil demons hide amongst them and they are protected. That's the Anti-Defamation League. And then they can call up someone like Kyle Clark, Antifa Clark, and they can say, we need another story on Mr. Oltmann. And we're going to send another story because if Joe becomes the head of the Republican Party, then anti-Semitism will go everywhere. And again, they use the bully pulpit in order to threaten an entire organization. That sounds like democracy, doesn't it? Actually, what it sounds like is pure evil. When I bring up Revelations 2:9 and Revelations 3:9, they shudder. And if you haven't read those, you should read it. It talks about people that say that they are Jewish, but they actually hide behind Jews, and they are to be considered the synagogue of Satan. Now, when I called Weiser and Polis and Griswold synagogue of Satan Jews, that means that they're fake. They're not real. They're part of a club, a cabal, a criminal family. But then they run and they hide behind the fact that they call themselves Jewish so that they are able to escape scrutiny. People are afraid. They have pause. They're like, I can't say anything, as the state degrades into a place where it's hardly recognizable. And I would ask you to tell me if I'm wrong. And the reason why they're so afraid of me is that I don't have to have a script. I don't have to have something in front of me. I can go and I can read and research and get to the bottom of things and clearly articulate where we are as a city, as a state, as a country. Now you got those people out there that say, but he's violent. When have I been violent? Did I go to somebody else's home with a gun and try to do harm to their family? No, I didn't. Did I threaten another man's family? No, I didn't. Did I hide on top of a roof with a gun and try to terrorize people that worked for my organization? No. Did I do it to them? No. No, I use my words to describe exactly what victimization looks like and who were the perpetrators of those that were making people in our communities unsafe and victims. And for that, they got to say, you're an anti-Semite. It shouldn't matter, by the way, what my heritage is, but it does. It should. I'm not self-loathing. It shouldn't matter that, frankly, they tried the racism thing with me. That didn't work. So, let's pick something else. Let's call him an anti-Semite because he actually likes Muslims. I like Jews. I like Sikhs. I like Buddhists. I like Christians. I like Catholics. Catholics are Christians. I even have friends that call themselves atheists. I like them too. What I don't like is evil. And what the Anti-Defamation League stands for is 100% evil. What the Jewish Colorado stands for is a bully pulpit that they think they can come in and they can put their fingers on the scales of how this state operates. It's really simple. In order to have a blueprint to destroy Colorado, you have to have an ineffective party. The party right now is nearly unrecognizable. But people like Kyle Clark, they want to create controversy. They want to create fear. They want to be the bullies in the room. So it's time, no matter what, to make sure that they pay for that. Here's an email that I got from Kyle Clark. Let me read it to you. Hi, Joe. I'm writing today about the letter sent by Jewish community groups to state central committee members about your candidacy for chair and your response. Is there anything you'd like to add to your email response, including below? Are you still considering litigation against the groups, or is that, and on what grounds? Our reporting is air at 6 p.m. If there's anything pertinent information and your response, we'd add it to the reporting on air and online. All the best, Kyle. So I had to respond, and I did. You want to put my response up? No, that's not my response. Forget it. Forget it. Forget it. The fact that a midget, metrosexual, like Kyle Clark and 9 News can stand back and do the things that they have done individually to people, I find reprehensible. But ask them if they were going to ever say anything about the Christopher Gregory case. They've never covered it. What does that tell you about Kyle Antifa Clark? What does it tell you? Did 9 News report on Eric Coomer running into a building, nearly killing someone, running into a bar, drinking, and then lying to the police? No. But had that been me, you think he would have reported it? He would have taken pleasure in the fact that he could have slandered and destroyed another person in his community. Scarlet lettered them. This is the thing that we have inside of our media, an apparatus that's now a weapon. The reason why people have no respect for or admiration for government is because it doesn't deserve it. The reason why they have no respect or trust or admiration for media is, again, it doesn't deserve it. But the SPLC is a part of a larger problem. Anti-Defamation League, it's more like the demon's lair. Because that's all it does is just promote and protect evil. And then they hide and say that they're the victims. I'm not going to stay silent ever. And if I'm not the chair of the Republican Party, it's not going to hurt my feelings. What it's going to do is going to hurt the people in Colorado. And that's the ultimate goal. The goal is for them to slander with impunity with no fact. Just based on the fact that I talk about the people who have done real harm to our state. And I talk about how they look as if they're protected. Nobody can talk about them because you're an anti-Semite if you do. And yet these organizations, I offered them the ability to sit down. I said, let's sit down. Let's have a conversation. And they said, no, we stand by the reporting. We stand by our email. The outcome was simple. We want you to scarlet letter this man and we want you to cancel them. That should not be allowed in the country ever. Ever. But they did it to so many people. And it just tried to stick. And those people haven't fought back very effectively. I will. I will buy whatever commercials are necessary in order to make sure it happens. And I will make sure that the lawsuit sticks. That's my promise. So Kyle Clark, I just have one thing to say to you. You're a pig. You're a disgusting, evil pig. You've done really bad things to the state of Colorado, and you deserve to pay for it. Now, however that comes out, I know it's going to cost you your job. I think you're unhireable, frankly. But let's see how it works out for you, because you obviously are poking the bear. So let's see how the poking goes. All right, let's go ahead and pray it out. Let's go look at the comments here for a minute. Dun, 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 dun. You guys got lots of comments. Jeez. All right, I'm not going to read all those comments. All right. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. If you're in one of those stations, go over and give me a 5-star review. Make sure that you are the ambassadors of truth. Please be the ones to share. I don't hate people. That's, I think, my biggest problem is that I don't hate people. I don't even hate them for when they did what they did. I guess that's why it's made me pretty effective. Yeah. I don't know. So I look forward to 6:00 tonight, and I look forward to going to the event in Weld County tomorrow. And frankly, I'm going to go spend a lot of time with Democrats in Denver, Aurora. I'm just going to walk into communities and I'm just going to wreck it. I'm going to go in there and talk to them about just how badly they've been betrayed by the very people that say they represent them. I'm going to, you know what papering is? You just put out like 50,000 flyers every day. You drop them from the air. Typically, we're not going to do that, but you just put them out everywhere. Then you set places where they can come ask you questions, kind of like was done with Charlie Kirk before he was murdered, assassinated by many of the same types of people that I'm talking about today. Yeah, we're going to do that all over Colorado, regardless of what happens with the race. You can't make me go away. You can't shut me up. You can try. And, you know, if somebody comes to try and do that, then I would just tell you that it might not end the way you think it is going to end. So I'll pray for patience, and I'll pray that we can kind of get to the bottom of all this. And I'll also pray for grace and forgiveness maybe we get to a place where we can have a better understanding, and they can sit down and tell me what they think, and I'll tell them what I think. And maybe we come to an agreement, maybe, but not before we get accountability through a lawsuit. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for the many blessings that you have in my life and in many others' lives. Thank you for the time, and thank you for Bruce's coming in here and advocating for people to our most vulnerable, our veterans. And thank you for, Father, having him stand up with courage and protecting our veterans and holding people that are diabolical responsible for their behavior. Father, we are kind of in a weird place where there's so many scarlet letters being thrown around. You have people that are trying to put a stamp on white people, and yet they lie and they create falsities, and we can see it. We're not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to talk about the people that betray you, Father, and call themselves a part of a tribe that, frankly, they don't even they don't believe in you. They don't follow you. They don't follow any sort of ethical, moral standards, and yet they hide behind the good people. So, Father, I just ask you that you would strike these people down. I want to just say it. I just think that these are the people that should be, that we should have some peace. And the only way to have peace is to eliminate evil. So, Father, I'd ask you to eliminate the evil. I'd ask you to put it in a place where we can actually have some consequences for the bad behavior and the bad things that have been done to good people all over this nation and all over the world. I'm asking for, Father, something so drastic and so pronounced that it allows for people to have courage in their communities and stand up and say, we will have no more of this. That it eliminates the bondage and stops us from being institutional slaves. More importantly, Father, we just need to restore all that is good to our communities and to our country, and that comes with just restoring you to every wake and walk of life. So, Father, I just ask you that you will give us the tools to be able to do that, to honor you, honor others, have grace, set aside petty differences, and truly get to the mission of restoration. Father, it's difficult to have so many bad people and not become discouraged. Father, I just ask you to give people the ability to have encouragement, hope, that we can come together collectively as a community and eradicate these evildoers and their rhetoric and propaganda and the lies that they have perpetrated over decades. Father, the last thing that I will ask, and I ask in with as much vigor as I can, and that is, please give us back our elections. Please expose to a bitter end the bad evildoers that have taken our ability to have a voice, and allow us to restore order to our communities and protect our children and give them opportunities in the future. I say these things humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. Well, I will see you guys soon. And yeah, remember, give me a thumbs up, likes up on your way out. Make sure you give me one of those, and we'll see you soon. All right? God bless you.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. behind a hill. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown, Tame nation. It's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave